It's Thursday, July 10th. I placed one trade on MES on my live account, and it was a winning trade, which is pretty exciting to have a second winning trade on the books this week. So, price action from this morning was very, very similar to what we got Tuesday. Similar to Monday, but yeah, almost exactly. So I took some lessons learned from Monday and Tuesday. I also, after spending hours studying my demand zones, I have two entry model theories that I'm going to start putting to the test. I took one today. It's going to greatly reduce the number of setups that I get, but I'm hoping it will increase my win rate. So I'm okay with staying out of trades. Like, I'm okay with seeing price move off my zones without me because it wasn't my entry signal. But I just haven't figured that out with demand zones. But yeah, so I have two. I'm gonna start applying. So just like Tuesday, we have our big push up here. We've got our origin zone and what I'm going to call an intermediate zone. Maybe this has some other name in supply and demand words. But so price came off the supply zone into the demand zone for a first test. That's the only trade I'm going to be willing to take right now. So I took that first test. It was pre-market. This was forming right as soon as I finished my prep work. So I entered within 5 minutes of being ready to trade. I try very hard to not jump into a trade when I get on the computer, even if I see something. I try to do all my prep work first before I even open the chart and start looking for something. But as soon as I was done, this was forming. So I entered right here. So my entry was 03.50. I was risking 5.25 points and I got 6.5. So not very great risk to reward, and overall kind of a small profit. 6.5 points is like $35 or so, or less than that, 32 maybe. So price came down off the supply zone again for a second test of the zone. So for right now, I'm going to stay out of second tests of this type of zone. I might do it for the origin zone, but for now, I won't take that. Eventually, price did come off the demand zone up into supply. Tuesday, it actually broke through this zone and then bounced off the origin zone. And then Monday, we just kept falling. So yeah, that was my signal based on kind of a theory that I'm applying right now, just an idea. And then I don't see an entry signal anywhere else here. Now, if you were to trade just the basic strategy, supply and demand, if you read how the strategy works in a book or on the internet, the idea is that you come in at the top of a zone. So you could come in at 6,300. And then you put your stop on the other side of the zone, maybe 62.94. So it's a 6-point stop. And then target the supply zone. I always come off. So you could target 10 points. But even if you did target the supply zone, this would have been a winning trade. And you would not have gotten stopped out. So that's not always the way I do it, especially when the zones are bigger. This is only 6 points, so it's not a huge zone actually. But I just don't put in a limit order. I don't know, I just like to see a little bit of confirmation to see there's a chance the price might rebound at the zone. But honestly, I think both ways work. A lot of the times when I'm in a winning trade, it would have been a winning trade even if I just submitted a limit order and put my stop on the other side of the zone. I would have gotten a better entry and a better risk to reward, more points. That's just not how really I do it. But you certainly can find success doing it that way. And if you did target 10 points, you could have done that twice with this demand zone. Now, that's not the case Monday and Tuesday. So, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always work more than once off the same zone. But that's kind of how you trade the strategy, more by the book. I like to risk less. Sometimes the zones are so big, I just don't want to put my stop that far. So that's why I have these strategies of waiting for confirmation, waiting for the green candle, Not just any green candle though. Now I've got some theories about what I'm looking for as far as candlestick patterns. So yeah. So that was that trade. That was 6.5 points. Obviously price did move off this zone and into supply zone. There's another potential setup here for what I call long off supply, although the signal isn't super clear because the candles didn't close over the zone. But this is a setup I talked about yesterday. I took this trade idea yesterday and it was my winning trade. In this case, the risk to reward though is not good. So even the signal not being clear and then the risk to reward not being great, like this isn't a setup for me, but it is the same idea. So the idea is that when the candle pushes over the supply zone and you get a retracement, sometimes that's just the end of the rally and price will just fall, but sometimes price will push higher into the next supply zone. So to eliminate the trades where that was the top of the rally and just fell, I implemented this. I have a theory where you wait for price to push back above the retracement area and then take it long. So that's the idea I took yesterday. Here, price pushed above it on this red candle, so I maybe would have entered there at the break of that line, and then you put your stop on the bottom of the retracement area, targeting the next supply zone. But in this case, the next supply zone is 3 to 4 points away, and your stop is also about 4 points away or so. So for me, the risk to reward is not very good. The fact that the candles didn't close over isn't as nice of a signal as I'd like to see, but like if the risk to reward was better, I probably would take that, especially to only risk like 4 points. So sometimes you have to consider all these things. Like, was the signal not super clear, but you're risking less, you know, and there's a better reward? Is the signal not clear and the risk to reward ratio is bad? Maybe that's a no trade. So anyways, that's the idea for that trade. That's sort of a signal for me, except it's not a good reward there. So that's it. That's my recap. I just capitalized on this tiny little move right here, 6.5 points. Obviously price moved a lot more than that, but this wasn't my signal for an entry, and I'm okay with that. I'm not sure if I'm going to trade live tomorrow. So as of right now, I am green on the week, which is pretty exciting. But if I take an 8 or 9 point loss, that is going to wipe out gains from 2 trades, which is not a good place to be. You don't want your losses to be greater than your wins. But you know what? I just get what my zones give me. I don't have runners. I don't shoot for crazy high risk to reward ratios. I just trade my zones, and sometimes that's going to give me more, and sometimes it's not going to give me that much. It's just going to be 6 points like it was today. So I just do the best I can to figure out how to give myself a higher win rate. That's why I spend so much time studying my trades. I think if I take a trade tomorrow live, I might allow myself to only take it if I can risk 6 or fewer points. That way I can still be green on the week. So I'm risking just having a smaller green week for the potential to have a larger green week. If I see a really nice oil setup, I'll probably take that. I risk a lot less on oil. But otherwise, I might just trade on SIM just to stay green and start fresh next week with these new ideas and lessons learned that I have from this week. That is it. That is my recap for today.